Vesteria. Explore breathtaking worlds, fight powerful monsters, discover hidden secrets and precious treasures. From parties and guilds with friends, raid ominous dungeons, and much more in the vast open world of Vesteria, the ultimate casual fantasy experience. I'm totally not just reading the description of the game, but for real, most of what this is saying is true. I do find Vesteria underrated, and I think it deserves more players. Come on, Kaneko Kitten, make a video on this game. I know you've seen it. I've been playing Vesteria for a little over 2 years now, so I'm pretty attached to this game. I used to just be at school thinking about Vesteria. I'd get home, beat up a bunch of spiders for 8 hours, and then repeat the next day. And I had a blast. In fact, I thought Vesteria was the best game on Roblox. But a lot has changed since then. Some changes I like, others not so much. The beginning of any Roblox game is super important because your average Roblox player doesn't have a very long attention span. So if they join a game and they don't know what to do, they're going to leave the game. A lot of games have the problem of just straight up throwing the player in the game and expecting them to know what to do. You really have to hook players into the game. And I think Vesteria does a pretty good job with that. As soon as you spawn in, the first quest is right next to you. The beginning of Vesteria has a set of quests that leaves it up to the player to explore and learn how the game mechanics work. Again, it's really simple. Just grab a stick and beat up some mushrooms. And then later on, you get to choose your class. And there are 3 different options: a warrior, mage, or a hunter. I really love it when games give players the freedom to choose their path and playstyle. The 3 classes are done really well. Warriors feel like warriors, mages feel like mages, and hunters feel like hunters. After the players choose their class, they're given the freedom to choose how they want to progress through the game or, level up. They can either fight a boss called Rootbeard, they can run through a dungeon called Mushroom Apocalypse, there's also occasional quests they can take, and there's a boss that spawns every hour called Chad. I really love the freedom of this section of the game. Again, it is done really well. At this point, it seems like this game is perfect. Does it hold up for the rest of the game? Well, I'll go over that later. As the player starts leveling up more, there's more maps they can go to. Once the player reaches the level requirements, they can then enter Nilgarth. Nilgarth will also give them access to a new area called the Nilgarth Sewers, which also has a quest line there where you can level up more. Or another way they can level up is to run through another dungeon called the Spider Queen Raid. Or there's also a really cool map called Shiprock Bottom. But it's a little broken right now. Please fix this. These maps give the player even more things to do. The gameplay during this section of the game is pretty perfect. But does it hold up for the rest of the game? I would like to say yes, but only goes downhill from here, sadly. But everything up until this point has been perfect. I'm about to get into the maps that aren't so good. But before I do that, I need to talk about subclasses. Now, what are subclasses? Well, they're basically classes for classes. Here, let me give you an example. Let's say you chose a mage. There's 3 different mage classes. There's a sorcerer, a warlock, and a cleric. Those are subclasses. And I have mixed feelings about subclasses. Obviously, subclasses allow for different playstyles, but some of the subclasses need some improvements. I made 3 categories. The good subclasses, basically the subclasses that need little to no changes. Then there's the okay subclasses. These subclasses only need some minor changes. Then we have the awful subclasses. This basically means just redo the whole thing, it's awful. First we have Berserker, and I think this falls in good. Berserker is supposed to focus on damage and strength, and it does what it's supposed to do, while also having some interesting abilities. Next is Paladin. This goes in okay. Paladin is supposed to be a mix of attack and support abilities. While it only has one support ability that no one uses because it's not very good. I would definitely buff Prayer of Comfort. The other abilities are pretty cool though, Smite and Rebuke. Next is Knight, and this also goes in okay. Now the Knight does what it's supposed to do. It's a tank and it has a lot of health, but the abilities are a bit boring. I feel like they could have been a little bit more creative with the abilities. Now the mage subclasses. First we have Sorcerer. Sorcerer goes in good. It's supposed to be a mage that uses elemental abilities, and that's what it does. The abilities are very cool except one. Earth Call could use a revamp. It's a little boring. But other than that, the other two abilities are really cool. Next is Warlock, and this goes in okay. You can steal life from enemies and turn your health into mana. Again, it's pretty cool. The only reason why I put this in okay is because it's so buggy sometimes to the point where it's just almost unplayable. Next is Cleric, and this goes in good. Obviously, it's supposed to be a support class, and well, that's what it is. You can resurrect people from the dead, and it also has 2 healing abilities. Next are the Hunter subclasses. First, we have Ranger. This immediately goes in bad. The Ranger is supposed to be this awesome archer with cool abilities that involves bow and arrows. Nope, an assassin using a bow and arrow is just as effective as using a Ranger. The Ranger abilities are terrible. There's Ranger Stance, which literally lowers your DPS. There's Ricochet, which is just terrible. And there's Hail of Arrows, which actually isn't that bad of an ability. But if you choose to be a Ranger, well, that was a terrible choice. Next is Assassin, and this goes in good. Assassin is meant to be quick and sneaky, and that's what it does. There's not much to say. It has a really cool invisibility ability, and it also has a pretty cool teleportation ability. Assassin is good. Finally, we have Trickster. Trickster goes in okay. Trickster is supposed to use traps and tricks to defeat their enemies, and that's what it does. Tricksters can place down traps. They can also shoot this weird orb thingy that switches places with your enemies when you hit them. It's pretty cool, but there's one ability that the Trickster has that I don't think should exist, and that's Disengage. You should not be flying across the map. Obviously, I think Tricksters need some sort of mobility, but Disengage is just too much. I think it should be replaced with something else, and that's it. But anyway, that's all 9 subclasses. Back to what I was saying about the bad maps. Basically, the end section of the game is the worst part of the game. I'll start with the map Forsaken Isles. The idea of taking a boat and going to another island to fight different enemies is a very cool idea, but they don't really do much with it. It's just a tiny map where all you do is kill the same 2 enemies over and over. It would definitely be nice to expand this map more or give some sort of quest line. This map just seems like wasted potential. The next map is the Whispering Dunes, and this is by far the worst map. Most of you may be going, what do you mean? This is the biggest map in the game and it has the most bosses. It's the best. Listen, this map is just a laggy and buggy mess. It's hard to even enjoy the map. Also, the content in this map just isn't very good. There's only 2 quest lines for how large this map is. And this quest doesn't even have a quest marker for some reason. And the bosses are just regular enemies such as bandits and death sings, but just bigger. I would say that running through the gauntlet to enter this map is pretty cool though, but there's no challenge. If you die, you can just respawn and continue like nothing happened. In all honesty, it may not be the worst map, but it surely is the most disappointing, as it could have been something much better. The next map is the Pit, and honestly, all 3 of these maps have the same issue. The Pit is also wasted potential. The Pit is supposed to be this epic underground city under Nilgarth, but it suffers the same issues as the Forsaken Isles. It's nothing but killing the same enemies. The weapon variety in the Pit is pretty cool though, besides the scrap weapons. Can someone please explain to me why a weapon that is literally made of garbage is better than the sword of a god? But yeah, basically all these maps just suffer the same issue. They all have so much potential. And honestly, I think the word potential is a good description for the entire game. Potential. Vesteria promises you this epic open world RPG game. It sort of delivers, but it just feels incomplete. Which, I mean, it is incomplete. I hope that if any of the developers are watching this, they don't see me as some guy trashing their game. That's not what I'm doing. This is a positive review. Vesteria may not be the best game on Roblox, but it's my favorite, and I only want what's best for the game. And I see this as a game with a lot of potential to be the best game on Roblox. Now, I think I've pretty much covered everything. I know I didn't really cover PvP, but all I can really say about PvP is that there's a lot of bugs that need to be fixed and some balancing issues. That's about it. I don't think PvP is terrible, but that's about the end of my review. Think of this game as a balancing scale. The good in this game outweighs the bad. Now, I'm going to rate this game, and I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I hate to give it a rating this low. I'd like to give it a 10 out of 10, but there's just too much, wrong about this game. But again, like I said, this is a game with a lot of potential, and honestly, that rating doesn't matter. That's about the end of my review. Thank you all for watching.